Yay, my new toy has arrived. Let's see how this thing works then. I've just put some tap water in there. I don't plan on spraying plants or anything today. There's number one problem, bending down. Let's give it a pump. Let's see what comes out the end. Oh, that's not bad. Obviously that jet is adjustable, but I mean at the moment I'm just using up the water to wet the floor, as I haven't actually done that yet this morning. It's a morning routine nowadays. Now that I've got the concrete floor, the amount of humidity I can add to the air in here, I'm pointing the camera all over the place because I'm looking at what I'm doing instead of what the camera's doing. But you get the gist. The main thing with the sprayer is when you're using it, how many times do you have to stop and pump the flipping thing up again, if you see what I mean. And that will be totally dependent on, you know, what make the sprayer is, etc. You know, there are variables concerned, but that only had a few pumps. Pressure seems to be staying for a while. I mean, I'm still spraying and I haven't pumped it up again yet. But that's the main factor. My little sprayer that I was using before, you know, I was pumping that up every quarter of a litre or something like that. So it was a tedious event. Whereas that's done most of the floor that I can get out without getting it on the plants. But now that I've got a lance, I can do pointing and get to places that I couldn't get before. Like right in under there, without getting the plants wet. Whereas I used to just throw it on the floor and hope that it flooded into those corners. Yeah. Well, that's as I say, that was just to show it working, really. And it still hurts to bend over. Well, that's not bad. That's kept going quite a long time without having to re-pump it up. It says a max of 25 pumps, and that certainly didn't get 25 pumps, so if it had, it would still be going now, but it's starting to lose its pressure now. That's good. I like that. That, as I say, that was just tap water. Obviously, if I was watering plants, it would be RO water and whatever fertiliser I chose to put in it. But yeah, I'm pleased with that. That didn't cost an awful lot of money, but it's going to save me an awful lot of time, and a fair few times it will avoid me taking each plant off the shelf in turn, like one at a time, bring it over, water it, put it to drain and put it back again for each individual pot. Well, if I can get enough water in those pots with this thing, because I certainly couldn't with my little one, half the water was missing the pots anyway, because it would catch a leaf or a stem or something trying to get at pots at the back of the shelf, whereas now I can do that. I can get there. So we'll give it a go and we'll see how we get on. But I'm quite pleased. It seems to hold its pressure well. The jet's adjustable from a fine spray to an actual jet, which would blast the bark out of the pot. So obviously somewhere in between might be good. But yeah, I'll give it a go. And certainly in the interim it's going to save me doing all the bending. It's these shelves down here. I just can't get down there with at the moment, you know, without my back hurting. It's not just a twinge, it's actually hurting if I try and get right down there. I can crouch down, you know, I can do that and keep my back straight. That works okay, but what a faff that is. So hopefully this will tide me over until until we're up and running properly. Yeah, I like that. It's a good make, you know, a known make. I'm not going to show that, that's advertising. Not free advertising for people. But yeah, it's a quality make in the UK, and it looks pretty sturdy, everything about it. You know, looks like it's just going to do the job. Good stuff. As I say, I'm not watering anything today. The mounts got done later in the day yesterday, and they got an absolutely good soak, and we had no sun. And at the moment we have no sun today, so quite a few of these mounts are still damp. I don't want to re-wet them again until they've had a chance to sort of dry off a bit more, so we'll be back to watering tomorrow probably. And who knows, I may actually go round the what I call the cooler stay moist type plants, which is basically all of these shelves here. That's Masdevallias, Restrepias, I think there's one Dracula lurking in there, and the Miltoniopsis. They need to stay moist, and they stay on lower shelves because it's cooler down there and away from this long edge. This long edge here gets the heat. The sun stays on that edge longer than any other part of the greenhouse. So it's coming in through the shade netting, yes, but it's there for many, many, many hours. And even though the sun comes along this shorter side, by the time it comes round over the house, it's moving towards that corner and then round to this long edge. So the sun is not on this glass anywhere near as long, which keeps the heat down on some of these plants. And they've all got, each one of these shelves down here has got its own little 6-inch computer fan, so the air is constantly moving. You can see leaves moving around down there now, yeah? So there's constant airflow over those plants, keep them cool, keep them out the brightest light, and keep them away from the edge that gets the most heat through. So yeah, I may go around with the sprayer and see how long it takes to put water in the top of the pot and for it to pour out the bottom all over the plant below it. That's the downside, is getting the plants wet, which I don't normally like doing. But this time of year, certainly when we've got the sun and the heat's in here, any water that gets on plants is gone. It's just gone in an hour or two. It's not like it's going to stay there overnight or for 2 or 3 days trying to dry off because it's cold, because it isn't. So it works this time of year. Certainly not doing that in the winter. But then in the winter, these pots over here that need to stay moist, I do actually let get virtually dry in between waterings because they're not growing much because of the short days. And they come round for watering about every 9 days, you know, whereas now it's every 3 or 4. Well, 4 or 5 maybe. But again, weather dependent. So new toy up and running, and that's going to save me an awful lot of bending around and moving plants around. As I've said, the downside is I don't get to inspect each plant individually every time I water, which could mean I get a build-up of bugs in places because I'm not seeing them, so I'm not getting at them. But I'll work on that. We'll see how we go with that. See you next time.